Hey guys, Mark here. Welcome to JOptionPane, a class in Java that will fill all of your initial dreams of coding and seeing stuff on your screen. I know you've been coding for a while and you've got stuff, maybe you were using Pico in Unix and typing up your code there, or maybe you've just been using Eclipse or IntelliJ and you've just been typing on the screen and stuff's been coming down to this console and you're interacting with and adding numbers and rolling dice and doing transactions. But that thing that you always wanted, that thing popping up on your screen that's going to blow your mind, be like, yes, project, or like an application, it hasn't happened yet. But that's where this here is where that changes. The JOptionPane. Well, I present to you the JOptionPane class. Let's proceed. Okay, let's get straight into it. We're gonna cover the three main methods of the JOptionPane class, how to import it, and some basic problems that we may run into using the JOptionPane or getting input from our user from the screen, and what it means and what's gonna happen. First things first, let's get straight into the import statement with that not straight line. I did get a drawing board to draw stuff out, but I'm using my mouse for this video. So the import statement is going to be javax, like fx special effects dot swing, because stuff on our screen is moving. It can swing around, and do things, and then the class name is JOptionPane. I just feel like there's a guy named Joe, and he really he discovered this. And they're like, we could put JO in and then we'll put pane, things that make sense, because we're going to have like window panes or stuff on our screen that we can click and do stuff too. So that's the import statement. Not really a big deal, a little bit different than the ones you've probably seen, but nonetheless, let's get straight into it, right? I'm going to first demo what's going to happen so you can see what it's going to look like. And okay, boom. A message. It's here. We did it. It has a symbol. It has a message. Right, and it states there are three different kinds of dialog boxes. Right. So what happened here? How did this come to be, and what are we going to do about it? Right. Well, let's see how JOptionPane works. That's our system out. So we've got the JOptionPane class. I'm going to use a different color. Class. Right. And we're going to be using the method that's called show message dialog. The first thing, we're going to name it null. Well, we're going to set it to null. It's the component parent, which has to do with the objects and stuff like that, but that's beyond the basics right now. And the message we're going to display is going to follow. Think of printf, the object, and then the actual thing we're going to toss into it. So we've got our message object right here. Don't even listen about that. We've got our message, and this is our actual content of our message, right? So that's what just happened over there. The next statement will come up right over here. Another thing to note kind of behind the scenes is that when you are doing a JOptionPane, nothing's running. As soon as, well, it's like being held up. You're like by a little toll booth where you're driving on a highway and you have to stop and pay the toll before you can go. The JOptionPane is just kind of like holding your program. So nothing below is running until this happens, until you click OK or give it the input. So the same thing's happening in this one, right? So we have the OK button. We can also hit X, but let's just hit OK. And now we've got our second method we're going to cover, right? We're going to cover the show input dialog, right? So the show input dialog lets us show an input dialog box, essentially. Similarly, the methods are going to have a similar format, and all three methods that I'm going to display are actually somewhat highly overloadable, which means that one method can take more than one set of parameters. So you can give it the null and a message, and you can give it a couple other things that I'll show briefly at the end of this video. So here it is, right? The input dialog box. And the way we got to this was we used JOptionPane, the class, the method show input dialog, and the message that we want. right? Now, what are we doing here, right? We're setting this to a string, test1, and Eclipse is not yelling at me. Well, there's a reason for that. And it's because the JOptionPane class automatically turns whatever you type in, a double, whatever it is, into a string. Now, that can be a problem if you are part of the, well, not if you're part of the honest bank. Well, if you are part of the honest bank, and the honest bank is doing the following. It's asking me to enter my account balance, right? Well, let's just keep it simple. Enter my account balance, and I'm just going to tell my account balance because it trusts me. It's $12, right? And now I want to enter amount to deposit, right? So I have $12 in my bank account. I just made bank. I got paid off from YouTube, from Twitch. I did a couple talks. I made 12. I doubled my bank storage capacity, all the amount I have, right? So that's what happened, right? I took those two strings. 12 was the value of test1, and then 12 again was the value of test2, the string that JOptionPane took from the numbers I put in. But I'm a bank, and what do you do when you deposit and you have a balance? Well, you should add the two numbers, right? So the string test1 is now 12, and the string test2 is now 12. But then if I want to add them in its current state, I'm just going to get 12, 12, and now that's too much money. Let's be honest. So how are we gonna solve this problem, right? So we're gonna go into something you probably should have covered. So I'm not going to go too deep into it, but we're going to use our little handy. Oop, that's not good. We're going to use our parse int method of our integer class. You can do the same thing with the double. Let's go into it. We're declaring two integers, my num and your num. Well, one's going to be the deposit, and one's going to be the balance, and then a sum, because we want to add the two numbers. So my num is going to be equal to integer.parseInt, and we send it the string, the argument, and then your num is going to be equal to integer.parseInt, and the second value. And then the sum is just going to do some regular integer addition, and we're going to get a sum, right? And this should be our actual, our balance, right? Let's just say val is now equal to, right, whatever. Just do that, right? So our balance is now going to be the sum. And this should solve the issue, right? Well, it sounds like I'm trying to trick you, but I'm not. I'm being honest with you. Right, so 12, 12, and now our balance is $24. So that's how we solve a very basic issue you might come across in an exam or in a program. Just really something to keep an eye out for. Right, moving on to the confirm dialog. It's really just going to let you shoot a couple messages out there. It's not as frequently used, but it's going to be very similar. And we can just skip to it without having to go through all those dialog boxes. And right, this is basically going to be a message that follows, and the yes, no, and cancel all have different integer values that you can use to set up your program, and it can have different meanings, and it can be used to confirm or put hold on things. That is a little less useful for this lesson, but it does exist, and I want you guys to know that, right? And then we have our show message dialog, but this time we've actually done something to the title or the header, right? So this is the same method as the one up here. Well, what's happening? Well, method overloading. It's actually one of the things about Java that are really cool, or just in general that's really awesome. Overloading a function, you're giving it more than what it was expecting, and it's still doing this thing that you desire it to do. So essentially, the other form that your JOptionPane can take is going to be, again, the object that it's acting on, which here it's null, the message, the title, and then the error message. It's going to be of that class, and they are all here, and there are a lot of them, but that's the main idea. No option. Let's see if it doesn't give me an option there. I don't actually know. Oh, doesn't give me. Here's the message. I don't know why it's called. I guess it's not. It's not some kind of some special sign. But that's really the basics of it, right? So there are a couple things going on in the background. You can pull up this method and go look for yourself. But it's really cool. It's a really it feels kind of counterintuitive in the beginning because you've got this null and you've got all these method overloads and you're like, what? I can put the title and this and that. But really, it's a really nice first step into making your programs feel more interactive beyond typing into the console or the system in. And one of the problems that you might run into, we can solve. It's not a big deal, right? That's what's really cool about the integer class. And you're like, well, we have int over here. Well, int is a primitive type. Integer is non-primitive. It's a class. That's why it's capital I instead of this one, which means that we have methods going on. So there's a lot of cool stuff happening here, and I really hope this helped you get a better idea of just what's going on in the background in a very deplayed in the background, as well as just on screen, just a basic overall view of things. So yeah, please let me know your feedback in the comments below, as well as a request of something else to cover in Java. Also anything in discrete math or statistics, I'd be happy to cover. So please let me know your questions or requests. And that's all for this video. Have a good evening.